When you think of a chain restaurant, a bonafide steakhouse is probably not the first thing that comes to mind. It's no exaggeration to say media personality Martha Stewart is a cooking and home decor legend. And a rich legend at that. Celebrity Net Worth lists her net worth at a staggering $400 million. However, along with some clearly lucrative highs, this is one celebrity who has also experienced some serious, and occasionally money-related, lows. Granted, she's also not the kind of person to stay down for too long. That's why, after any kind of hardship comes her way, Stewart has gotten right back up and continued her ongoing path to ever-growing, and seriously enviable, success. Because of that, plenty of people are surely happy about the fact that Stewart is also willing to share some of the secrets of her success. Burritos? Sure. Burgers? Absolutely. But steak? It seems like a dish that's reserved for only the most exclusive of establishments. But there's one chain that does steak really, really well, and that's Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Or, in her case, Rules, as we're told in The Martha Rules. 10 Essentials for Achieving Success as You Start, Build, or Manage a Business. Among other helpful tips, she explained that when it comes to business, it's all about risk. By that, she means both assessing risk and managing risk. At the same time, she added, but it is also sometimes about taking a deep breath, looking all around you, then doing what my friend and colleague Market Burnett calls jumping in, following a well-informed instinct or a calculated hunch even when others can't understand. Sometimes those risks pay off and sometimes they don't. That's something Stewart knows well, as you can see from the following ways she's both made a fortune and taken a few significant hits over the years. She made it as a model. Martha Stewart may now be a mega successful media personality, however, when she first started working in front of the camera it was as a model. It's a place where you can grab a nice meal and treat yourself and your loved ones. In fact, according to MarthaStewart.com, modeling was her first job and one that she started doing in high school in order to make a little money while still a student. Per Business Insider, she was merely 15 when she got into the industry, while the star herself noted while talking to people that the opportunity popped up when she was signed by Ford Models. Standing above average at 5'9", per her website, and obviously having camera-worthy good looks, Stewart continued to model after she left high school and moved on to Barnard College as well as during her days after graduating. Posing for fashion editorials and appearing in ads for brands like Chanel, Unilever, Clairol, Breck, and Lifebuoy soap, she also walked the runway for fashion shows. While that may sound glamorous, Stewart once admitted on her website, "During my modeling days, we didn't have a team of stylists for photo shoots. I had to do my hair myself." Of course, by taking advantage of her DIY styling skills and not paying for a professional out of her own pocket, the woman who was destined to be a star was already proving that she was financially savvy. She was also making $50 an hour while modeling, which Business Insider notes was a pretty impressive paycheck back in the day. Martha Stewart headed to Wall Street. You might assume that modeling led to Martha Stewart's work on television. However, her career actually took a turn when she went to work on Wall Street. And since there are so many different choices on the menu, you know that everyone in your crew will find something they'll love. But if you haven't been to the restaurant many times, you may be at a loss for what to order. With so many different delicious-sounding items on the menu, how are you ever supposed to choose? Let's take a look at some of the most popular items on the menu. We've ranked them from worst to first so you'll have a good idea of what you should try and what you should leave behind. 25. Biography notes that in the 60s, she took a job at a boutique firm called Moness, Williams, and Seidlitz as a stockbroker. Sticking with it until 1972, per biography, she said on her website that the job taught her so much about what it takes to build a real business, a real company, a meaningful and useful enterprise. In fact, Stewart told people that the most important of her early jobs was being a stockbroker. Saying that she lasted in that business for just 2 years shy of a decade, she explained that she was working in a firm of all men. Lettuce wedge, we're sorry, but is there anything sadder and more depressing than a wedge salad? Don't get us wrong, we love salads. Only one woman owned a seat on the New York Stock Exchange at that time. The National Women's History Museum notes that was Muriel Siebert, who became a member of the NYSE in 1967. Stewart went on to say that she's not intimidated by men, and was totally respected, adding, "I had a very successful career in the stock market, and I sometimes regret not staying in that business, because becoming an investment banker would have been pretty fabulous." And that's why we feel the need to call out this abomination of a side dish. The lettuce wedge salad is incredibly simple, and not in a good way. First, you'll get some crunchy, watery lettuce that's hardly appetizing if you're the kind of person who generally enjoys eating salads. That lettuce comes with blue cheese and bacon on top. When you order a big, hearty steak, you probably want your side dishes to complement the star of the show well. And because steaks can be so heavy, you're probably on the lookout for something that's lighter and more refreshing when it comes to your side dishes. So why on earth would you want your veggies to be completely doused in dairy products and meat? It just doesn't make any sense. There are plenty of tasty veggies on the Ruth's menu, but this one is not it. 24. Stuffed chicken breast. Ruth's Steakhouse is not the cheapest chain restaurant you can go to. But I was lured to the home. Indeed, Stewart left her Wall Street career, where she made up to $135,000 a year, according to Entrepreneur, to spend more time with her family and ended up with another lucrative job. Catering was a new beginning for Martha Stewart. You can surely trust the catering advice given on marthastewart.com thanks to the fact that she once had that very job. After leaving Wall Street, Martha Stewart got a job in Westport Mall's food court where shoppers were served gourmet food, according to Reference for Business. The food there is on the nicer side, so it might feel like a special occasion every time you go. You're paying for access to delicious, well-cooked steaks. So why would you decide to get the stuffed chicken breast instead? Look, we get that not everyone wants to eat red meat all the time, but this entree is just not it. First of all, it starts out with a breast, which is definitely the least flavorful kind of chicken you can choose. Then, it's stuffed with garlic herb cheese and lemon butter. Managing the market basket, she was just as successful in that gig as she was as a stockbroker and was the force behind turning it into a serious moneymaker. It was also around that time that Martha started spending her time perfecting her gourmet cooking skills at home. In the 1970s, she and her husband at the time, Andy Stewart, moved themselves and their daughter, Alexis, to an old farmhouse. Can you hear us snoring already? This is such a boring and uninspired dish. Her culinary efforts went so well that she was soon making additional money after starting her own catering business in 1973, according to her website. In fact, Entrepreneur claims she found herself with a company worth $1 million. Working out of her own kitchen and making every aspect of her meals, her influential clients were impressed with the drool-worthy food and conversation-worthy ways that she presented her dishes, per PBS. Of course, it's now no secret that Martha has a knack for entertaining. But before she became famous, she definitely put in the work to refine her skills while continuing to make money along the way. Martha Stewart hit the big time with her books. Martha Stewart had clearly nailed another venture while running a catering business. However, it was actually her catering that led to yet another successful endeavor and the beginning of something big. While also working as the New York Times food and entertainment editor, according to Entrepreneur, she ended up catering an event for a publishing company. The president of the company was so impressed with what Stewart had to offer that he gave her a book deal. It's something you could even make at home. MarthaStewart.com notes that Entertaining hit the shelves in 1982 and gave those who purchased the cookbook a glimpse at dishes she had been serving her catering guests. The first book really was kind of an entertaining textbook for the homemaker, Stewart explained while opening up about her career to NPR. If you can be bothered to whip up something this bland. Ruth's Steakhouse has so many incredible cuts of meat. Don't sell yourself short by opting for the chicken breast. 23. Saying that she wasn't able to track down a book that she felt nailed entertaining at the time. She added, "Oh, I decided to write it." Stewart's debut book was a smashing success with Entrepreneur claiming that 625,000 copies flew out of stores. Calamari. We love a good seafood appetizer. There's just something that's so nice about starting off your meal with a light taste of fish. But if you're wondering whether you should order the calamari from Ruth's Steakhouse, we're here to tell you that you're better off choosing something else. Why? Well, it's not because we don't like calamari. When it's done well, there's nothing better. That's why she unsurprisingly has continued to write more books over the years. But the calamari here is not the best you can get. The squid is lightly fried, but somehow, it's still way too greasy. In fact, in November 2020, her website pointed out that she was just 3 books shy of 100. Some of the later foodie-pleasing, home-tidying, money-making books include Martha Stewart's Cookie Perfection, 2019, Martha Stewart's Organizing, 2020, and Martha Stewart's Cake Perfection, 2020. The books also sparked a celebrity career that would be filled with very good things. Martha Stewart made cookies and bank. It's hard to imagine what goals Martha Stewart might have had in mind when she wrote her first book. However, with her talent and ambition, it's understandable that her first step into the world of media was just a glimpse of what was to come. When you order seafood, you probably want something on the lighter side, so this clearly isn't ideal. Granted, at the same time, her life was changing in a very different way. It's paired with a sweet and spicy chili sauce that's really more sweet than it is spicy. By the time the 90s began, Stewart was 49 years old and her daughter was grown up. The worst part? It's super rubbery, making it hard to even finish chewing a piece once you take a bite. The woman who was finding fame as a food expert was also divorced. It's not the ideal calamari situation, if you ask us. 22. However, she explained on her website that when it came to her career, she knew that she was onto something big. I've been dubbed a late bloomer, and I love the moniker, Stewart admitted. Noting that she published the first issue of her magazine, Martha Stewart Living, in 1990, she added that she's been pursuing her dreams ever since. Those dreams apparently included branching out from her successful magazine and launching a television show that aired from the mid-90s to 2004 while earning a fair share of awards. Sweet potato casserole. If you're like us, a sweet potato casserole makes you think of fun times spent with family, gathered around a table at the holidays. It may be a side dish, but it's also sweet enough to play double duty as a dessert. That was followed by Martha, which appeared on screens from 2005 to 2012, not to mention Martha Bakes, Martha Knows Best, and The Apprentice, Martha Stewart, among others. Of course, interest eventually moved online, which is why her website is now an integral and popular part of her brand. Throw her lifestyle products into the mix, and Stewart's fortune-making entrepreneurial empire only grows. Becoming America's first self-made female billionaire these days, those who follow the financial status of celebrities will know that Kylie Jenner was caught up in a billion-dollar buzz. Therefore, when you see the sweet potato casserole on the Ruth's Chris Steakhouse menu, you may be tempted to give it a try. Of course, it's up to you, but it's certainly not one of our favorite sides at the steakhouse. First of all, there's the texture. It's way mushier than you might expect, even bordering on the point of being liquid Y. However, it was Martha Stewart who was actually America's first female self-made billionaire, per Fortune. Doesn't sound that appetizing, does it? Then there's the lack of flavor. It almost tastes like no spices were used at all. Earning the status in 2000, Forbes explains that was a year after her Martha Stewart Living Omni-Media company, which encompasses various media and retail endeavors, had gone public. When asked by Fortune about her boundary-breaking feat, she explained, "I was lucky, and I was smart. I built a beautiful company, and I was rewarded. Finally, add in the weird, soggy topping, and it's a side dish that we'd rather just avoid. And that's the American way." However, over the years, the company faced obstacles, which we'll explain more a little later, that hurt the earning power and, in turn, value of the company. That's why when, as the New York Times points out, Stewart decided to sell the brand to the Sequential Brands Group, which also owns Jessica Simpson's brand, in 2015, it only brought in $353 million. While that's still a pretty big fortune, it's just a sliver of the $1 billion that the company was once worth. Although this was undeniably a pricey hit for Stewart, she was still willing to see the bright side, at least publicly. Don't worry, though, there are other tasty potato options on the menu. 21. According to The Times, she explained in a statement that the deal would not only further the growth and expansion of the unique Martha home and lifestyle brand, but also tap into Sequential's expertise and resources to expand their money-making efforts. Martha Stewart rakes in real estate. Martha Stewart is famous for making homes beautiful, which is something she's done for herself everywhere from her residence in New York to her house in Connecticut. If you're curious about the kind of cash that Stewart spends on her pricey properties, Velvet Ropes revealed a few numbers. Lobster mac and cheese. We don't want to talk too poorly about lobster mac and cheese because it's one of those modern-day comfort foods that seriously hits the spot sometimes. Stewart reportedly paid $3 million in 1995 for a home in the Hamptons called Lily Pond Lane and $5.4 million for a three-story mega abode, which is a whopping 35,000 square feet, on a 63-acre property in Maine deemed Skylands, which she nabbed in 1997. How can you not love lobster, cheese, and pasta all in one dish? But when it comes to the lobster mac and cheese you'll find at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, we were a little less than impressed. Why? It's just such a basic dish. There's no strong flavors in the mix, so it all ends up being a bit blah. Those came before the $5.8 million 6,800 residential addition to Skylands, and her Cantido Corners New York home, which sits on a staggering 153 acres and cost her a cool $15.2 million. Of course, Stewart has also made a fortune by selling real estate. Things really kicked off in 2007 when she sold the Turkey Hill property, which cost her $46,750 in 1971 plus the $47,000 for a 2-acre plot next door 4 years later, where she had lived with her former husband and daughter for $6.7 million. From there, in 2011, she was paid $6.65 million for her place in New York City's West Village, per Velvet Ropes. Thanks to that kind of savviness when it comes to real estate, Forbes reported in 2019 that Stewart had gotten into the real estate development business. Lobster, pasta, and cheese can already be light on the flavor, so we wish there was a bit more going on here. So while this lobster mac and cheese isn't the best thing on the menu, there are better options to try. And if you're truly craving some amazing lobster mac and cheese, you can easily find another restaurant where they serve the good stuff. 20. Ruth's chopped salad. While we are grateful that there are salads on the menu at this steakhouse, the Ruth's chopped salad isn't anything to write home about. Is it better than the lettuce wedge? Absolutely, but that's not exactly difficult. We're sure plenty of people would pay a pretty penny to live in a Martha Stewart-approved home. Costly lawsuits hit Martha Stewart when someone is a part of big business ventures like Martha Stewart had been over the years. It seems inevitable that they'll also find themselves caught up in a legal mess or two, if not many more. That's what happened to Stewart when she faced a lawsuit involving PetSmart, according to the New York Post. In a situation that also involved a company called Age Group, the legal situation saw the business going after the star for breach of contract as well as additional claims. That went down the same year that Stewart was named in another lawsuit with none other than Macy's and JCPenney. This salad is about as boring as they come. Atop a bed of lettuce, you'll find mushrooms, bacon, egg, and olives. If that sounds like it's missing a lot of delicious veggies, you're not wrong. The lawsuit, which involved supposedly sticky retail practices and allegedly iffy business tactics just like the first legal issue, was initially settled in January 2014, per Reuters. It's also got blue cheese and a basil dressing on top, but those ingredients don't do much to make it better. Again, this salad is packed with animal products that don't exactly lend themselves to freshness. That was surely good news, as Noble Financial Capital Markets analyst Michael Kopinski told the outlet that the Macy's lawsuit was an overhang to the Martha Stewart shares. He also felt like the deal was worth over $100 million in revenue, which obviously means that a lot of money was potentially at stake. Unfortunately for the business-savvy celebrity, after initially being settled, according to Reuters, the lawsuit was brought back in February of the next year before finally being settled, for good, in 2017. Although the terms of the settlement weren't made public, there's no doubt that this was a costly situation that took years to wrap up. Prison time wasn't good for business. Martha Stewart may have left her job on Wall Street, but it turns out that she didn't leave investing behind. Any flavor from the veggies is drowned by all the blue cheese, too much of it, we may add. That became clear in 2003 when she found herself in trouble with the law due to some questionable actions. Sure, if you really want to get a salad on the side, we guess that this one might fit the bill, but you shouldn't go out of your way to visit Ruth's Chris just to try these greens. 19. Bread pudding. You'll have the choice between a few different desserts when you make your way to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, and most of them are at least decent. CNN's Money reported at the time that the star had been indicted over accusations of being dishonest during an investigation over possible insider trading. However, our least favorite is definitely the bread pudding. That's mostly because it's too sweet. These days, people are leaning more and more toward more interesting, complex flavors in their desserts as opposed to overpowering sweetness. But this bread pudding doesn't seem to take the hint. The situation went back to 2001, which is when she offloaded shares of Imclone, a company whose CEO was friends with Stewart, just a day ahead of the value significantly dropping. Stewart, in turn, stepped back from her roles as the chairman and CEO of her company, Martha Stewart Living Omni Media, per CNN. When you first bite into it, it tastes good, but it actually hurts your teeth a little bit. Of course, in 2004, she was found guilty of all the charges against her, according to the Wall Street Journal, and ended up serving time in prison. The more you try to eat, the more you'll realize how over-the-top sweet it is. We do like the texture it has from the raisins, and the whiskey sauce is definitely solid. We wish we could put it on a wider variety of foods. But with other mouthwatering desserts on the menu, you don't need to go with the bread pudding. 18. Mushrooms stuffed with crab meat. When you go out to a restaurant like Ruth's Chris, there's a good chance that you're eating out because it's a special occasion. Whether you're celebrating an anniversary, a graduation, or just the end of the work week, going out to treat yourself may mean splurging and getting an appetizer. Although the WSJ noted that a statement from Stewart that had been posted to her website said she was obviously distressed by the jury's verdict, juror Chappelle Hartridge had a different view of the outcome, saying, "Maybe it's a victory for the little guys who lose money in the market because of these kinds of transactions." Either way, as a result, in 2006, the worth of Stewart's media company dropped by a staggering 50%, according to ABC News. While that was also surely a massive hit to the star's own financial status and money-making power, she was down for long. Martha Stewart made a lucrative comeback on March 4, 2005. Martha Stewart was released from prison after serving her 5-month sentence, according to NPR. As CNN reported following her sentencing, she also had to complete a 2-year probation sentence as well as fulfill a $30,000 fine. However, the star apparently didn't let the time in prison bring her down. It was actually the opposite. She told Harper's Bazaar, "I knew I was strong going in and I was certainly stronger coming out." That's perhaps one of the reasons why, the very next year, Stewart showed up on Forbes's rich list. Indeed, she got right back to business after serving her sentence, and along with continuing to release books and appear on-screen, she also moved into radio with SiriusXM and got into the wine business. On top of that, the fact that Stewart was now seen as a less-than-perfect person might have actually helped her when it comes to business. Appetizers are amazing because they allow you to sample more flavors without having to order too many whole entrees. Just consider the fact that it was her friendship with Snoop Dogg that led her to launch a cannabis-related business. More specifically, CBD, as noted by Forbes. And that's where the mushrooms stuffed with crab meat come in. We like that this menu item isn't something that you're going to see everywhere, which makes it more appealing. She even told Harper's Bazaar that going to prison was one of the ways that she and the rapper, who has faced legal troubles himself, were able to form a deeper friendship. And in theory, it sounds amazing. In reality, though, it's a bit lackluster. From Wall Street to catering to media to weed-adjacent products, it seems like this is one star who makes money no matter what she ventures into. The mushrooms have a rubbery texture, and the crab meat is a bit bland. It was a good try on the restaurant's part, but we don't think we'll be starting off our order with these mushrooms anytime soon. 17. Cheesecake. You may be asking yourself, how is it possible that ice cream isn't in the very first spot on this list? That's a valid question, as cheesecake is a superior dessert. And when it comes to the cheesecake at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, you're probably not going to regret ordering it. But is it the best dessert on the menu? Absolutely not. If anything, this stuff just tastes like store-bought cheesecake. Not bad, per se, but just not interesting in any way. They could have added a variety of ingredients to the cheesecake, but they decided not to. The dessert is served with fresh berries and mint, which add a nice touch. The tartness of the berries really plays well with the sweetness of the rest of the dessert. However, because this cheesecake was so simple, we probably wouldn't want to order it on a special night out. Isn't novelty half the fun? 16. Garlic-crusted sea bass. It's usually not a bad idea to order seafood at a steak restaurant, but that doesn't mean it's always going to be the best thing on the menu. And when it comes to the garlic-crusted sea bass, it's no exception. Is this the worst fish dish on the menu? Definitely not. After all, when you crust something in garlic, it's pretty much guaranteed to taste at least relatively good. However, we just can't give this one our total seal of approval. Perhaps because this is a steak restaurant and not a place that specializes in seafood, you can't guarantee that your fish isn't going to come out overcooked. This is not necessarily a lovingly prepared fillet of fish. Rather, it seems like more of an afterthought on the menu. If you're looking for a lighter seafood option, then this may be the way to go. But if you'd prefer to enjoy something more interesting and flavorful, there are better options for you on the menu, even if you decide against a steak. 15. Shrimp cocktail. How can you not love shrimp cocktail? There's something about this classic dish that keeps people coming back for more time and time again. It's a chance to really appreciate the shrimp for all it is. It's not fried or doused in a complicated sauce before it even arrives to the table. Instead, you get to choose how much cocktail sauce you want on each bite. The sauce itself has that horseradish-y spiciness to it that'll make you want to eat the whole dish of it, and when the two come together, it's magic. That's shrimp cocktail in general, though. When it comes to the shrimp cocktail you'll find at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, we think you could take it or leave it. It's shrimp cocktail, so you know it's going to have some basic appeal. But there's nothing different or interesting about the sauce, and the shrimp probably aren't the freshest shrimp you've ever eaten. That being said, sometimes you just have to start off your meal with some shrimp cocktail. We understand. 14. New York strip. Let's get one thing straight here. Pretty much any steak you get at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse is going to be a good choice. This place specializes in steaks, so you know you're going to get something that you'll actually enjoy. However, there are definitely some cuts of meat we like better than others. While a New York strip is generally a great option, we don't think it's the best choice when you go to this chain steakhouse. When you go for the New York strip, you're going to get a tougher cut of meat than many of the other options on the menu. That's because New York strips don't have as much marbling in them, which is that fattiness that melts into the rest of the steak, making it juicier and more tender. It tastes good, but there are much more impressive steaks on the menu. If you are going to order this one, though, we definitely recommend going with a rare or medium rare preparation so the steak doesn't get too chewy. 13. Sizzling crab cakes entree. Sometimes, when you go out for a nice meal, you want to order something that feels kind of special and impressive. But this isn't an Applebee's, and you're not going to be able to order the sizzling fajitas. So, what should you go for? We think the sizzling crab cakes entree will definitely get the job done. You'll get 3 jumbo lump crab cakes that come out with sizzling lemon butter. This lemon butter adds just the right amount of fat and acidity to give the crab an extra hit of flavor. That being said, we wish the crab were just slightly more flavorful. This dish could have packed more of a punch if it had a touch of spiciness to it or even just a more interesting concoction of mild spices. However, because the presentation is so special, we can look past those minor flaws. If you love a good crab cake, this entree should definitely be up for consideration. 12. T-bone. If you're looking for a nice, hefty steak that is sure to fill you up, and taste amazing in the process, you may be looking for the T-bone steak you can snag at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. That's because when you order a T-bone, you're actually getting 2 different cuts of meat. On one side of the bone, you'll find the strip steak, which is known as being a super flavorful cut. But you don't have to stop there because on the other side is the tenderloin, famous for its tenderness. Because the bone steaks in this cut of steak, you're going to hang on to more of that flavor and juiciness. Just a warning, though, this is a really big cut of meat. It comes in at 24 ounces, so you're going to want to make sure you're really hungry before ordering it. If you do, though, we don't think you'll be disappointed. 11. Lamb chops. When you go to a steakhouse, you're probably only thinking about the beef. What's the best cut, and how many ounces do you want to tackle? But when you take a look at the menu at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, you're going to see something that you may not have bargained for: the lamb chops. For lamb lovers, this is a total dream come true. It's not every restaurant that offers lamb, so you're probably going to want to take advantage of it here. If you're not familiar with lamb, it's worth a try. Lamb has a stronger taste than beef, and it can be described as gamey. Don't let this turn you off, though. When lamb is cooked well, it's absolutely delicious. Ruth's Chris Steakhouse may not have the best lamb in the world, but if you want to give it a try, you're not going to go wrong with this dish. 10. Cremini mushrooms. Looking for one of the tastiest side dishes on the menu? In that case, you can't go wrong with the cremini mushrooms. If you know anything about mushrooms, then you know that this is one of the most popular varieties available. They have a nice, mild flavor, so even those who usually aren't huge fans of mushrooms might like this dish. The texture is also nice, soft, and meaty without being too rubbery. These mushrooms are pan-roasted, which really helps to draw out the liquid and brown the fungi, giving it a sweet, caramelized flavor you're going to fall in love with. What's even better is the veal demi-glace, which lends a savoriness to the mushrooms that you won't get from most side dishes. Add in the fresh thyme, and it's clear why this dish is such a winner. If you're looking for a go-to veggie side from this steakhouse, now you know what to look for. 9. Spicy shrimp. One thing you might notice if you frequent Ruth's Chris Steakhouse frequently is the fact that there are not a lot of spicy items on the menu. If you like a dish that offers a bit of heat, you may not be too pleased with the selection at this chain. However, there is one dish that you're probably going to love if you don't mind a touch of spiciness in your food, and that's the spicy shrimp. First of all, the shrimp themselves are juicy and plump, and then they're fried to give them some texture. But the magic really happens when you add in the velvety spicy cream sauce. A lot of times, you don't see spicy sauces that are also creamy, so we love that Ruth's Chris is offering us something different. This may seem like a lighter meal because it's just seafood, but it's actually incredibly filling. Shrimp lovers, this is definitely a menu item to check out. 8. Seared ahi tuna. We were surprised that the seared ahi tuna landed a spot this close to the top of the list, but once you try it for yourself, you'll totally understand why. This fish is cooked to perfection, which isn't always the case at seafood spots, let alone steakhouses. The outside of the fish is seared well, giving it almost a crispy crust. However, the inside looks completely raw, so you get to enjoy all that flavor you can only get from raw tuna. It also comes out plated beautifully, so you may want to snap a few pictures before you dig in. Your ahi tuna will also be served with fresh English cucumbers, which add a lightness to the meal that complements the fish well. Add in the mustard beer sauce, and it's clear why this is one of our favorite items on the menu. We know that not everyone will want to order fish at a steakhouse, but if it sounds good to you, you should totally go for it. 7. Ribeye. In general, ribeyes are considered one of the best cuts of meat. That's because they're very well marbled with fat, giving you incredible amounts of flavor and tenderness throughout the entire cut of meat. Therefore, pretty much anywhere you order a ribeye that knows how to cook it well, you're going to be fine. But it's also one of our favorite cuts at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. This steak weighs in at 16 ounces, which is one of the more reasonable sizes on the menu. At only 11 ounces, a fillet might not be enough for some people, while a 24-ounce T-bone steak can be too big and intimidating. But since the ribeye is right in the middle, it seems like a more approachable option. Like most steaks, this cut will taste best to most when cooked medium rare, but the choice is up to you. Just don't blame us if you order it well and get an overcooked steak. 6. Chilled seafood tower. There's just something about a seafood tower that gets the party started immediately. Sure, the seafood itself is good, but there's also the impressive presentation. Who doesn't want to be served a massive platter full of delicious food they probably don't eat on a regular basis? That's why the chilled seafood tower at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse gets high marks from us. You're going to get a variety of different types of seafood when you order this seafood tower. The king crab is definitely something special, and it's a great way to start off your meal.
Then comes the succulent, juicy shrimp that taste amazing on ice. The lobster may be the most luxurious part of the tower, so you'll want to really savor it when you give it a try. And don't forget about the colossal lump crab, also a treat you won't be able to get enough of. While, yes, this may seem like more of an appetizer to share with the whole table, nobody's saying you can't make it your entree. We certainly won't judge. 5. Chocolate sin cake. It's time to talk about the best dessert on the entire menu. When you go to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, take it from us, you need to order the chocolate sin cake. It really is sinfully good. This is a flourless cake, which means that it's exceptionally moist. You're not going to have to worry about taking a bite of a dry slice of cake if you order this stuff. Ganache adds a layer of richness and luxury to the cake and adds even more to the chocolatey flavor. And while yes, this all sounds pretty intense and frankly, too heavy, the game changer is the raspberry sauce. This sauce is relatively sweet as well, but it packs a punch with a tartness that really transforms the whole dessert. The rich sweetness from the chocolate and the tartness of the sauce come together perfectly to create a dessert that we want to have every night after dinner. If you really want to treat yourself when you go out to dinner, the chocolate sin cake is a must-try menu item. 4. Petite fillet and shrimp. When you go out to eat, you may already know exactly what you want before you even sit down at the table. And for people like that, the petite fillet and shrimp from Ruth's Chris Steakhouse may not sound like the best option. But for those of us who can't make up our minds about what to order, this may just be the perfect choice. When you choose the petite fillet and shrimp, you basically get to try 2 entrees in one. You'll get 2 tiny, 4-ounce fillet medallions for your steak portion. These medallions might be small, but they're packing a lot of flavor. You're going to be blown away by how tender they are. The small size also makes them seem more manageable and helps you to savor them even more. This order also comes with 6 large shrimp. These shrimp are much lighter than the steak, adding a nice contrast to what otherwise might be a really heavy meal. So, if you want to try a taste of both the steak and seafood options, aka surf and turf, you'll find at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, the petite filet and shrimp may just be your new go-to order. 3. Tomahawk for 2. Whether you're celebrating a momentous occasion or just really want to impress your date with something special, you may be considering the tomahawk for 2. Let us just tell you, it's worth it. The first thing you should know about this cut is the fact that it comes out with a massive bone still attached to the steak. That's part of the appeal. It really does offer a wow factor that you're just not going to get from any other cut on the menu. It's not just about the steak's looks, though, it's also an especially tasty cut. This is a thick steak, so you're going to get a lot of meat in every bite. It's also really well marbled, meaning all that fat has soaked into the meat. And since this steak weighs in at a whopping 40 ounces, you're not going to worry about not having enough to share. In fact, you may even be able to share this cut with 3 of 4. Once you taste it, though, you probably won't want to. 2. Veal osso buco ravioli. Did you think that you were going to see a pasta dish snagging one of the top spots at a ranking of Ruth's Chris Steakhouse dishes? We didn't think so, but the veal osso buco ravioli really is something special. It might be filling, yes, but we definitely think you should give it a try if you want to taste the best of the best on the menu. The saffron-infused pasta is out of this world, and it goes so well with the sautéed spinach that adds a touch of green and freshness to the dish. The veal demi-glace, though, is what really brings out the flavor in this dish. It's an incredibly rich sauce that pairs so well with what would otherwise be quite a light pasta. Though this may not be something you would think to order at a steakhouse, it truly is something special. Give it a try the next time you go. 1. Porterhouse for 2. It's finally time for the best of what Ruth's Chris Steakhouse has to offer, and it's no wonder it's a steak. We love a lot of the dishes on the menu, but this one really is a cut above the rest. It's the porterhouse for 2, and you might not even want to share it once you taste how good it is. Ruth's Chris website describes it as having the richness of a strip and the tenderness of a fillet. So if you really want the best of both worlds, it's clear why this steak is your best bet. We also love the fact that this is a dish you can share because it makes it ideal for a date night.
You'll get a 40-ounce steak, which should be more than enough meat. Seriously, it's a lot for 2 people. And getting to share the dish adds something special to the dining experience. If you truly want the best that Ruth's Chris has to offer, we can't recommend enough trying the porterhouse for 2.